What I like to do with the Contra test is I like to use the NES version of the game, and then I press down on the D-pad and then rock it left and right to see whether or not the character moves. And the way you test that is by pressing down on the D-pad, which makes the character crouch, and then you rock it left and right to see whether or not the character moves. And this character instantly moves, as you can see here, which to me fails the Contra test. This is a little bit too sensitive.
The Contra test is totally wrong, and I have no idea how this became the default test for D-pads in controllers. So in today's video, I'm gonna prove that the correct behavior is the total opposite of the Contra test. We can all agree that the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis are the peak of 2D gaming, right? So the D-pad of these two consoles should be considered a standard for benchmarks. And if we try the Contra test with the Super Nintendo, we can see that the behavior is the exact opposite. When you press down and rock it left and right, the character will move. And this happens in all four directions. The same rule applies to the Sega Genesis too. Even though the D-pad has a different shape, the diagonals are still easy to hit. And this rule applies to a lot of controllers from different systems. I tested with the Nintendo 64. The controller is modded with a wireless motherboard, but the D-pad and membranes are original, and the behavior is the same as an unmodded controller. Here's the original GameCube controller. Here's the DualShock 3. DualShock 4. DualSense. And even the Xbox Series controller. This also happens on the Wii U gamepad, on the original Wii remote, on the classic controller too, on the new Nintendo 3DS XL, and even on the Virtual Boy. I could only find a few exceptions, being the original Nintendo 3DS, and honestly, ask anyone that has an original 3DS about the D-pad. This D-pad is one of the worst D-pads I've ever used. And it also applies to the DSi XL. But here the diagonals are not hard to hit at all, you just have to move your thumb a little bit higher. Most of the people that I see complaining about this are Tetris players. Sadly, I don't have a DMG Game Boy or a Game Boy Color to test, but if it also behaves differently on those consoles, they're also an exception, as all of the other main consoles have the opposite behavior. Home consoles have evolved from the arcades, and in arcade sticks, the sticks move in a square shape, at least from the Japanese models. In America, the sticks has often an octagonal gate or a round gate. Like this GameCube controller, when you move down, it's a bit harder to move into the diagonal directions. This is okay for an analog stick, but in an arcade stick where the switches are digital, this will limit the amount of area you have for the diagonals, resulting in a heavy impact in some kind of games. For example, if you're playing a fighting game and you're ducking, it's much easier to block with a square gate. Not only that, but it's also much easier to perform a quick shoryuken by tapping diagonally twice. Shoryuken! 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 And this is why this exact behavior is expected on a D-pad. This small detail alone can make or break your match. So when testing the D-pad, you want to see easy to press diagonals. If you're a Tetris player, you can try changing the way you press the D-pad. Instead of rolling your thumb, you should try pressing each direction separately. This change in the movement is enough to avoid accidental diagonals or down inputs. And that's it for this video. Now let me know your opinion. Do you like easy to press diagonals? Or do you prefer the less sensitive D-pads? Leave your opinions in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.